Alright, what's going on, guys? So I just kind of wanted to share something that I had been told but I'd never seen myself, kind of regarding haze in New England style IPAs. I'm sure you guys know what a New England style IPA is. Typically it's all late hop or late addition boiled hops. There's usually oats or wheat in it, typically. It usually uses like a certain style of yeast, like the Conan yeast or the London Ale 3 yeast, and it usually has a really big dry hop addition. And what it's kind of famous for is given like a hazy IPA is kind of what it's called. So, you know, I've a New England style IPA, hazy IPA, that type of thing is what we're talking about. So if you guys have never brewed one, you really should. It does kind of require, to do it properly, in my opinion, does require quite a bit of hops. We're talking, you know, between dry hop and late addition boil for a 5-gallon batch, you know, 12 plus ounces. So it's kind of it's a bit of a wasteful beer, but it definitely does create a beer that's very unique. And it's a low bittering hop too, so it's, you know, a lot of people don't use a bittering charge. Anyways, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm going to be kind of discussing the haze part of the New England style IPA. My own personal opinion, I don't care too much about the haze either way. I think it's cool and it is really hazy, and I've made a New England style IPA, and they haven't been that hazy, and I've had them kind of in the middle where it's, you know, really cloudy but not like that milkshake, which is kind of associated with a lot of New England style IPAs. So I wasn't really doing an experiment, but I did a 10-gallon batch. I can kind of give you the recipe, but it was basically 2-row and wheat. So, you know, probably 20% wheat and then 2-row. No bittering addition. So basically I would, you know, the mash in at a normal temperature, 152. And then I would, you know, bring it into one keg, and I would, you know, mix it up so the gravity's, you know, the same throughout the whole thing. And then I would split off 6 gallons into one keg, and I'd keep one keg, basically a split batch. So both of these beers I'm going to be showing and talking about is the exact same grain bill. I mean, literally from the same grain bill, just split batch. And so both of them were 60-minute boils. All of the hopping was done at flame out, you know, and then I would whirlpool for 45 minutes to an hour. You know, one kind of got a little bit longer, probably whirlpool time, since I had to chill one and then, you know, I chilled the other one. So I wasn't doing it as an experiment. I was just trying to make two different types of beer. And the yeast that I used on these beers was the Giga Yeast Vermont IPA yeast, which from everything I've read is like the Conan strain of yeast. So one thing that was kind of interesting is I got two totally different looking beers and really the only difference between the two beers, fermentation was the same. They were in different vessels. One was in the brew bucket, one was in a 6.5-gallon carboy. But they were single hopped beers. So each one had their own separate hop, and I'll get to that in a minute. And that was really the only difference between the two beers. The yeast was the same, you know, from the same starter. Actually, no, I did a 500 milliliter starter, and then I split that into two 2,000 milliliter starters and built those back up. So, I mean, the yeast pitch could have been different. But, you know, the same basic yeast pitch and the exact same strain. So let me show you the two different the beers and how they look. Now this one, let me get a little closer. This one is, I would say, is just not clear. If I looked at this, I would not say this is a New England style looking beer. Did you hear that? This one looks like, you know, super hazy, super cloudy. Now, I've made a couple New England style IPAs, and I've had kind of both results. I do kind of a lot of single hopped beers, maybe 2 different hops, but I usually don't do 3 or 4 different varieties of hops. It's just kind of the way I brew. But anyways, so these are both single hopped IPAs. So this one was brewed with Nelson Sauvin hops, and this one was brewed with a hop I don't know about. It was a mystery hop. When the cloudy one was the mystery hop. I won a pro-am competition with a brewery here locally to Denver called Odd 13, and they have on average 5 to 6 New England style IPAs in their tap room at any moment. So they're that's their specialty. You know, they do a lot of other different types of beers, saisons and you know, a stout here and there, and you know, sour beers and stuff like that. But mostly they do you know, New England style IPAs, late hopping, you know, all of it. And it's funny, when I was brewing with them, he was like, I haven't done a multiple, because on my Pro-Am beer I did like a 5 or 10 minute and then a whirlpool hopping. So he was kind of like, wow, we never do that, like a 10-minute. We only do 1 charge of hops, and that's always at the end of the boil. Anyways, I digress. So when I was, you know, he basically, the brewer and the owner, they both kind of hooked me up. They gave me probably 25 pounds of hops. You know, they just had like open bags. You know, this bag had 6 pounds of hops in it. You know, and to them that's just not worth putting into a beer. I don't know. So they had just these kind of partially open bags of hops, and they get it was only 4 varieties, but one of them was El Dorado, Nelson Sauvin, Eureka, and then it was this mystery hop, and it just wasn't labeled. It was just a big bag of you know, it was a bag of hops that wasn't labeled. So I wanted to see what it tasted like, and then I like Nelson Sauvin, and I've never done a single hop Nelson Sauvin beer, so I just maybe I have, but anyways. So I don't know what this hop is that's in this, but it's definitely probably a trendier hop. It's not like a Centennial or a Cascade. You know, it's probably one of the more trendy hops. You know, it could be Centennial actually. I don't think so by the smell of it. Actually, I know it's not Centennial. But anyways, I'm not talking about the hop varieties so much as the fact that the only difference between these 2 beers, for the most part, is the hops used. The amounts were extremely close. There might have been a difference, but it wasn't much. They were both hopped at, you know, pretty heavy doses. You know, probably 8 ounces at the end of the boil, and then another 6 to 7 ounces for dry hopping. You know, so it was, you know, per 5-gallon batch. So it was, you know, they were really heavily hopped. And, you know, that's something you get to do when you get 25 pounds of hops for free. And I gave some of those to some local guys here. So it's not like I just kept all those hops. I can't use that many hops. So I gave half of them away to brewing buddies and stuff like that. But anyway, I digress. So, and I was kind of talking to the head brewer there, Eric, and he had said that, you know, and it's probably not a theory. I haven't, you know, people probably know a lot more. But he was saying that, you know, hop varieties and the hop oils and the different chemicals that are in a hop, he feels really makes a difference in how hazy and cloudy a beer is. But man, by looking at these 2 beers, I would say, man, that has to be true, just by the fact that they both use the same quantity of hops. The only difference was the variety. Again, I don't know what the variety is on this one. This one was Nelson Sauvin, and I don't know what this one was. But again, that's not really the point. I wish I knew what it was, but I don't. Yeah, so anyway, that's just kind of... I also do believe that the yeast does make a difference. So what I would like to do, I think the next time I make a new, you know, 10 gallons of a quote-unquote New England style IPA, I think what I'm going to do is I might do like 5 gallons, 100% hopped, you know, late edition with, like, say, Cascade. and use 001 for both beers. And then the other one will be, what's up, Harrison? Fat, nasty cat? You just can't stand not being on camera, huh? You're an attention whore. And anyways, and then do another 5 gallons. Okay, that's enough. Do another 5 gallons with more of that New England style hop variety that is kind of more classic. I don't even know yet. I'd have to look through my hop variety. But and one of the other varieties was Eureka that I got too. But anyways, so and just to see the difference in haze that hops creates, I thought it was interesting when I was pouring these two beers. And this beer is it was brewed. It's November 19th now, and I looked at my notes. It was brewed October 17th. So these are both very fresh. The one thing I will say, the difference between these two, the beer smells good. This one definitely has more of a vegetable smell to it, and it could be the fact that the hops weren't really vacuum sealed. He didn't know how long they'd been in there. Lots of different differences between that. This beer started out clear, like it didn't clear up. So, and they've been in the keg for at least 2 weeks. I like the taste of this beer better. I'll tell you that right now, and that's probably just from the hops. But this beer came out. Oh, and the other thing I should say is I did crash chill both beers in the fermenter. Again, the same. So I was trying to drop, because I put so many dry hops in, I was trying to drop the hops out. But this beer came out pretty clear. And one thing when I do these really high hoppy beers, especially a lot of late, heavy dry hopping, is the first 5 or 6 pints has that kind of hop burn to it. That it's just like hop oil, just like, it tastes super bitter, and it just kind of lingers on your tongue like hop oil, and it's just, an astringent type of thing. It's pretty, it's really unpleasant. I recognize it as just being, I kind of know what's going on. It's just the hops are settling down, and then you're pulling beer from the bottom, just what's going to happen. And it happens quite often, but not every time. This beer never really had that. I mean, the first couple pints, it was clear, tasting really good. And this beer, even to this day, because I'll go a week, 10 days between drinking beer. So, I've had 3 of these tonight of this beer, and it's tasting pretty good now. And like on this beer, there is a bit of that kind of hop burn. You can just taste like raw hops in it, which isn't really a good attribute in my opinion. And I think what's going on is just the hops, whatever the oil, and I should have been more prepared. I don't actually know why it's more hazy, but I am pretty sure that there's hop oil and stuff in there, and it's in the keg and it's settling down, slowly. And I've made enough of these that if you leave this in the keg long enough, it will start to clear up pretty drastically. It will never be crystal, but it does clear. In 2 months, this beer will be much more clear than it is now. So yeah, anyways, super interesting kind of differences between the two beers. I don't have answers really. My only kind of note or observation or point to share in this is when making like a hazy IPA, some hops, in my opinion, in this one experiment or observation, will make a beer more cloudy, and the other hop will make it less cloudy. And in that same instant, this hop, whatever this is, the mystery hop, is kind of and like as I drink this, if I have like 6 of these, that kind of hop burn really goes away, and this starts drinking much nicer. And that's what happened last weekend. Last Saturday I had 6 or 7 of these beers, and by the end it was tasting really nice. And then I go this weekend and it's like, oh, the hop burn's back, and I think it's because it just settles down again. So the first 5 or 6 pints it kind of clears up, and then, anyways. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to share that with you guys. I probably just rambled on for way too long, but yeah, super interesting, I thought. So I'm going to kind of dive into that a little bit more. I might, if I, kind of do this experiment again, I'll definitely kind of look into the hops more. I kind of want to use like a Cascade, a super non-New England style hop, at least not traditionally, or at least not that I've seen. I haven't seen very many New England style IPAs made with Cascade. And then do it versus like a Eureka or a Galaxy or something like that. Something that's really a New England style, New Age type hop. So anyway, yeah, so that was interesting. Let me know if you guys have experienced that before, of like a certain hop that just hazes harder than others. So, yeah, I guess that's all I got really going on brewing wise. Gonna be brewing a light American lager for the holidays, for the pops, and so he likes Coors Light, so I'm gonna see if I can't brew one. So I'm gonna make a video on that. Will be my next video, and I'm kind of gonna go over the Brewer's Edge electric system, my final thoughts, things I like, things I don't like. So that's gonna be my next video that I have planned. But yeah, and this beer was made with my 10-gallon setup. So, all right, guys, we'll see you later. Bye.